Feel the chill of that foggy November dawn. A young Ukrainian scout, heart pounding under his vest like a war drum, slips across the Kursk borderline, the weight of his village's ghosts on his shoulders, his grandmother's tales of Soviet chains rattling in his ears, his son's unborn laughter a silent vow as 1,000+ troops surge into Russia's heartland, seizing Sudzha and beyond in a lightning raid that flips the war script overnight. They don't seek glory and gold. They seek ground zero for revenge. Villages reclaimed not for maps alone, but for the soul scarred by years of shelling that stole sleep from mothers and futures from fathers. But in days, the tide turns brutal and unforgiving. Drones light the sky like false stars, artillery answers in thunder that shakes the bones, and Russia's scramble leaves 500+ losses scattered like broken promises per ISW's Nov 2 flash update. Friends, this Kursk incursion isn't just invasion. It's a thunderclap of defiance, a people's roar against the bear's paw, echoing the cries of a nation that's blared too long. Stick for the next 8 minutes as we dissect the daring dash in the enemy soil, Russia's ragged response that reeks of panic, the human heartbeat pulsing through the havoc, and the winter whispers that could redefine 2025's fate. Grip tight. You'll hear the boots on foreign soil, taste the dust of desperation, and feel the echo of unbreakable resolve. Drop your post-check in comments right now. Bold genius or risky blaze? Which fires you up more? Let's ignite the discussion. Kursk's quiet fields, once a Soviet shadow of security, where families picnicked under birch trees, now cradle the war's wildest twist. A border that bled borders into blur, turning neighbor against neighbor in a frenzy of forgotten fences. Sudzha, that sleepy hub of 5,000, with its onion domes piercing the sky like prayers unanswered, and market squares where babushkas bartered dreams over fresh bread, falls first on August 6, 2024's echo into this Nov 2025 fury. Ukrainian 82nd Air Assault and 80th Brigades, 1,000 strong and fueled by months of meticulous planning, punched through with unscripted speed, capturing the town center in mere hours, per ISW's Nov 1 assessment that calls it a masterstroke of misdirection. Why here, in the belly of the beast? Kursk's underbelly, rail hubs humming with supply trains, power lines feeding Moscow's glow, a dagger poised at Russia's supply throat, offers leverage for prisoner swaps that could free hundreds of brothers in arms, a psychological jab at Putin's invincible facade that's cracking like thin ice under the weight of its own lies. Villages like Tetkino and Lubimovka tumble next, 100 square kilometers claimed in a whirlwind week, locals waving blue-yellow in stunned solidarity, some even cheering the liberators who bring not bombs, but a breath of the old world's end. Ukraine's play? Not blind conquest, but cold calculus. Distract the Donetsk drains where Russia's grinding gains force Moscow's hand from offense to frantic defense, buy precious breath for battered lines holding Kharkiv's heart. Yet laced in the lunge, a poignant pull that tugs at the throat. Scouts like that young fighter, packs light with bread from Kharkiv kitchens still warm from dawn ovens, letters from lovers left behind folded like fragile shields, charging not for land alone, but to lift the yoke their parents bowed under for generations, to say no more to the shadows that stole their youth. Russia's response lags like a wounded giant. Mobilization murmurs from Moscow's marble halls, but Sanction 6 stocks mean delayed divisions creaking into place, factories forging fury from fumes and half-hearted steel. Gains? Fleeting footholds that flicker like candle flames in wind, but the gleam in Kyiv's eye? A spark that says, we endure, we evolve. This breach is a ballad of bravery sung in the blood of borders blurred. For every step forward, a story of sacrifice. If you led that scout team across the line, what whisper from home would guide your gun through the fog? Etch it in comments now. Let's lend voice to the vanguard and keep their fire alive.
Then the skies scream back in a symphony of spite. Russia's rally, raw and ragged as a cornered wolf, unleashes a tempest of retaliation that shakes the stars. As Ukrainian boots bed in Sudzha's squares, Putin's paratroopers from the 56th Airborne drop in disarray like leaves in a gale. VDV elites, once the sky's elite, clashing in close-quarters carnage that turns cobblestone streets to kill zones, per BBC's Nov 2 embeds from the edge of the fray. Drones duel overhead in a deadly ballet, Lancet loiterers lurking like vultures versus Baba Yaga bombers buzzing with bombs from the black. 500-plus Russian casualties in the first week alone. Oryx tallying 200-plus vehicles vaporized by Nov 1 in a ledger of loss that stings like salt rubbed into Empire's open wound, confirmed by satellite snaps showing convoys curled like dead serpents. Kursk civilians caught in the crosshairs' cruel cross. Evacuations echo the 1943's horrors, with families fleeing on foot, clutching dolls and diaries. What whispers of normalcy they can carry like lifelines in the storm. Moscow's math unravels fast. Mobilize 50,000 in a blitz, but training's tease is tragic. Conscripts 18 to 30, 2 weeks' worth of drills, thrown to wolves with rifles rusted by rage and resolve that's running thin. Ukraine holds the high wire with hybrid hustle that's pure poetry. Bayraktars baying from afar like hounds on the hunt. Western ATACMs arcing in arcs of annihilation, turning Russian rallies to routes that leave fields furrowed with failure. The 98th Airborne's push at Guyevo, pummeled into pulp per ISW Nov 2. Local wins for Ukraine, but a global groan for the Kremlin. 1.1 M total dead and wounded since the dawn of this dark dance. Economy's ember flickering under 8% contraction that's squeezing the life from every ruble. For the fighters locked in the fray, it's fiercer than any forecast. That scout's locket warms against cold steel as he sights the next shadow. The Russian paratrooper's last call home, a crackle of "I'm okay, mama," that lies like autumn leaves under boot. This clash, not chaos for chaos's sake, but a chronicle carved in conflict, of a bear bloody at its own hearth, a falcon unflinching in the gale. Rallies roar turning to rout's regret. Which rips at your core? Pull below right now. Russia's scramble smart, or Ukraine stand the supreme play? Your vote shapes the story. As dust settles on Sudzha's streets like a shroud over secrets, Havoc's heartbeats throb louder than any howitzer. A toll that tallies not just tanks twisted in the twilight, but tomorrows torn from trembling hands. Russian losses cut deep. 500 plus in Kursk alone, per Mediazona's Nov 2 grim tally. VDV veterans vanishing in villages they once vacationed as boys. Conscripts' coffins crated home to quiet funerals where mothers wail without witnesses. Ukraine pays in its own crimson coin, 100 plus fallen per Zelensky's somber ledger. Villages vitalized but scarred with shrapnel scars that sting like fresh grief. Power grids glitching in the gloom like nerves frayed to breaking. Broader brush strokes the bigger bruise. Kursk kinks Russia's own knot. Diverts 30,000 from the Donetsk grinder, eases the vice on Pokrovsk's pressure point per ISW Nov 1, a strategic sigh of relief for Kyiv's winter weave of defenses. Putin's pivot plays desperate. Buffer zones barked on state TV like a cornered dog's bark, but borders bleed both ways now. Psyops pounding with denazified drums that drum hollow against the harmony of held ground.
For the folk trapped in the fold, Kursk's kin, 100,000 displaced in a diaspora of dread per UN Nov 2, schools shelled into silence, weddings whispered in basements lit by candlelight, a region ripped from routine and remade in ruin. Ukraine's undercurrent runs deeper still. Unity's undergird, from Lviv's lights to Odessa's waves, volunteers stitching drones from diaspora dreams, a nation knitting nets from the knots of need that bind them tighter. Havoc's hidden hymn hums low. That scout's advance avenges Avdiivka's ashes with every step, but aches for an end where borders bind like brothers, not bite like beasts. This turn, Twilight's tease of transformation, from stalemate stare-down to shift's subtle sway, where Incursion inks a new narrative in the ledger of liberation. Havoc's hurt or hope's hint, which haunts your heart more? Whisper it in comments, we weave the warmth together, turning toll to testimony. Kin across the lines, from Kharkiv hearts to Kursk crossroads, this storm isn't storm's savage end, it's the spark where borders bend like willows in wind, where one bold breach births a billion breaths of possibility, a promise that defiance dances even in darkness. Honor the halted hearts and the heroes who hold the line. Let this thunder tune not just terror in our veins, but the timbre of tomorrow's truce, a song where silence sings louder than shells. If it stirred your spirit deep, the surge's raw thrill, the soul's steadfast song echoing through the fog, like it to light the way for others, share to spread the spark, and subscribe to sustain the saga of the unbowed. Next surge, Putin's panic plays, winter's wildcards, and what they mean for 2026. Your Kursk kernel of truth, the risk that redefines or the resolve that redeems. Comments converge like comrades at dawn. Your call carries their cause across the miles, till the front finds its finality in fair fields. Foster the fight for a world where whispers win over war. Fade to frontiers free, under skies that finally forgive.